This is the ship of Theseus. In Greek mythology, the king of Athens, Theseus, used the ship to escape to the city of Delos after rescuing the children of Athens from a minotaur. In celebration of Theseus, the Athenians would take the ship to Delos on a yearly basis. But as a few years of this tradition turned to dozens, and dozens of years turned to centuries, the ship required many repairs. So over the course of some centuries, all of the wood was replaced one plank at a time. This caused ancient philosophers to ask the question, is this the same ship of Theseus that Theseus took to Delos? In order to get to the bottom of this paradox, we need to start with a concept called material constitution. It describes the relationship between an item and what the item is composed of. A famous example of this is statue. This is a statue named Statue, and it is made out of clay. So we have the statue here, and it's made out of clay. So you could say that the statue is composed of clay. But the main problem with this paradox is trying to figure out if the identity is separate from the item that composes the identity. So in this case, we have statue, and it is made out of clay. But are the two related? Well, there are two camps to this argument. One side believes that identity and what the item is composed of are separate things, whereas another camp believes that the item has its identity because of the thing it's composed of. So going back to the ship of Theseus, this poses the question, is it the ship of Theseus because of its identity or because of the wood that it's composed of? And to answer this question, we can actually take a look at ourselves. And this is because our bodies are composed of cells. Cells are created through a process called cell division and destroyed through a process called apoptosis. You may have heard of this before, it's pretty basic biology. So if our bodies are composed of these cells and they're constantly being created and destroyed, our bodies undergo this process of change. And after we've lived a certain amount of years, it's safe to say that our body is composed of entirely different cells that make up our bodies. Yet we still somehow retain our identity. At least that is what you would think, right? Because I'm still me and you are still you. You have the same concept of yourself that you did when you were born. You're still living this life as you and nobody else. At least that's what we think. And here's an example of what I mean. I am 21 years old now, but I know for a fact that I act differently now than I did when I was 16. And I'm certain that I behaved differently when I was 16 than when I was 4. So somehow we still have the same identity of when we were younger, but it's almost like we were entirely different people. The personality or identity that we now express is composed of entirely different behavior that has changed throughout the years that we've been alive. We've been exposed to more experiences and we've learned valuable lessons, and this has caused us to change our personality to be what it is today. So even though we might remember our lives when we were younger, are we still the same person? So in trying to find an answer for this paradox, we only find ourselves questioning whether we're the same people as when we were born or not. But I think our answer might lie in energy. And the reason for this is the first law of thermodynamics. We all know that energy cannot be created or destroyed, it only changes. And despite this change in the way energy is expressed, we still call energy what it is, energy. Another good example of this is water. We've all heard of the water cycle before. Water can go through many stages: condensation, evaporation, collection, and precipitation. It took me a minute there. So despite water going through all of these different states, we still call it water. It's just changing forms. And I would argue that it's the same thing with people. We might be different in certain ways, and the ship of Theseus might look different than when it first set sail, but its identity is still the same in a way, although it has changed. Okay, I'm editing the video right now, and I want to say sorry for being so close to the camera when I first recorded this, but I also wanted to add on to this subject that I was just talking about. I think the very important message of the Ship of Theseus is that identity and the material that the item is composed of both change. Here's what I mean. So my body changes over time. Being older now, I look different than when I was younger. But at the same time, my identity has also changed. So that's why this is an identity paradox. I think that accepting change is kind of the answer to this problem, but there is no real answer. I think that's kind of the thing to realize. Our identity changes just as much as our bodies do, and just as much as items do around the world. And it may not seem like a serious question to ask, but I do think it is worth considering and forming your own opinions of, which is the question of, are we the same person as when we were younger? Physically, we are different, and even mentally we're different. We experience a different life now than we did before. So, are we the same person? Is this an entirely new person that is living this life? It might sound kind of far-fetched, but it's the same thing with the Ship of Theseus. It has the same name, but ultimately everything that made it, that composed its existence, is entirely different. And that's the same with all of us. But once again, rather than being frightened at this concept, I think looking at it with the freedom that it presents us with is the answer, which is the freedom of choice. We can choose in the present how we present ourselves and how our personalities are composed. We just have to choose to behave in the way that we want to. Anyways, that was my little update and clarification. I hope it maybe gave a little more insight to this problem, but if it didn't clear much else up, then leave a comment below and I'll be happy to discuss this with you guys in the comments. Anyways, back to the video. I think it's just the outro that's left, but anyways. So it's my opinion and my belief that it doesn't really matter in the form that something presents itself to you. It's still the same thing. It has the same form that it once did. It just may have changed the way it presents itself to you, or slightly changed its personality or identity, like us as people. We still have the same bodies as when we were younger, but our personality is also different. Yet we're still experiencing the same life. I think that is kind of an answer in itself to the paradox. I think it just comes down to change. And in the wise words of Marcus Aurelius, the only thing certain is change. I forget the exact quote, but it's something like that. So just like how our body is composed of all of the cells that make it up, our personality is the sum total of the choices we've made in our past. And those choices have led us both here to this moment right now. And in the present moment, we can choose to be the version of ourselves that we want to be. This is kind of a shorter video, but it was just something that interested me, so I thought I would do a little research on it and give my thoughts on it. I hope you found it enjoyable or entertaining, and if you did, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment if you so please, and I will see you all again sometime soon. Also, if you have any video recommendations, I will gladly take those. So anyways, see you guys soon. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.